Okay, hi guys. It's Katie.
This is Hanan.
Welcome to Health
Health
Feeds,
Feeds.
Season 1, Episode
Episode
4.
four.
And we are so excited today because we have a very special guest speaker and a dear friend of mine as well. Her name is Laura Jane, and she's a certified yoga therapist. So she's here today to tell us all about the use of yoga therapy. Why is this really powerful alternative medicine and a really good tool to have under your tool belt in times of stress and all the craziness that sometimes is going on right now.
Yep.
So welcome, Laura Jane.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and share what I know and lived as a yoga teacher and a yoga therapist. I'm honored that you've invited me today.
Oh,
Thanks so much
thank
for being
you.
here with us.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
So how about we just jump right into it? Yeah.
Lovely. I'm here.
Cool. So can you just tell the audience what yoga therapy is and why is it considered alternative medicine?
Yes, I think a lot of people are confused of what yoga therapy is because ultimately all yoga is therapeutic. But it's interesting because I practice a model of consciousness in yoga that deals with a 5-dimensional system. And this is what yoga offers. Yoga actually means a state of balance. So to live in a state of balance is very difficult in our world today. You have to know everything is uncertain. Our minds are spinning. We've lived through so much turmoil and we are in a state of change, huge change. So yoga is creating an opportunity to give us tools to learn how to practice bringing our mind and our body in a state of balance. So I work one-on-one. Yoga therapy is, you can do it in groups, but ultimately not one person is the same. We're all unique. So it's like saying one shoe does not fit everyone. So if we go into a big class and we're doing an asana class, people assume that's just yoga, which asana means postures. So a lot of people immediately say, I can't do yoga. I'm not flexible. I don't like it. I don't do it. Or they say, I want to do this kind of yoga. I don't like that kind of yoga. And they've made an opinion based on what they see. And that's all we know, right? We see it from magazines and we see, like me, I'll be honest, white, thin woman. We think that's yoga. And if your body type doesn't define that, I don't do yoga. I can't do yoga. There's nowhere for me. So we don't feel we belong. And my work as a therapist is to be inclusive, that yoga is for everyone. No matter where you are, you can begin. And I meet you where you are, meaning you're not expected to be perfect. Why? Because we're not perfect. We have to start accepting who we are as imperfect and want to learn. So as a yoga therapist, I teach you tools. It would be like creating a garden. You have to learn how to use a rake. You have to learn how to use a hoe, a shovel, and get seeds to create what you want as a garden. Maybe that becomes the intention. Beauty, wonder, awe, garden. But that's in us. So my work is to give you tools to create opportunity to discover who you really are, which is a beautiful, light, magnificent human being. We are intrinsically kind. We are intrinsically forgiving and compassionate. But unfortunately, we have armor. It's called our identity. We all come in to protect this identity. I learn how to protect, how to go about my life, and I learn my likes and my dislikes. And so I end up spending all my time following what I like and resisting what I don't like. And yoga is saying, no, this is where all the root of suffering is in avoiding the intimacy of being intimate with those things we don't feel comfortable with, that we feel awkward with, that we feel ashamed of, that we don't understand. Why do I do that behavior when I don't like myself when I do it? So we look at the whole teachings of yoga in changing patterns. We are creatures of habit. And we've learned it from our family systems. We've learned it from our society. And we identify, if I do that, that will get me what I want. And that's good, that's bad, that's right, that's wrong. And I end up being very judgmental because I'm protecting that which I'm afraid of, which is my intimacy. So I, as a yoga therapist, am not a PT. Okay, everybody thinks yoga therapy is working with backaches. Believe me, people come in with a backache. Wonderful. But I don't know the cause. I don't know the cause of your backache. It could be that everyone has a different cause of what structurally is causing their pain. So a yoga therapy is working from gross to subtle on a 5-dimensional layer. I work from gross to subtle, meaning your physical body. So you'll come in and I create a safe place for you to be willing to look and observe that maybe you don't need surgery. Maybe you don't need to cut this. Maybe we need to heal. But it's patience and acceptance and gradually learning tools to heal your back. So as a yoga therapist, I work on a 5-dimensional system, your body, but I introduce your breath. Because if my body is tight and resisting and in fear, I'm going to grip no matter what. I might not know I'm gripping. Wait a minute, I might not know I'm not breathing. Most of us do not breathe. We do not breathe properly. We do not breathe deep diaphragmatic breathing. Most of us don't even know your thoughts. We only hear our chatter. So my intention is to balance out through the breath and the movement and the body to focus your mind. I will bring the mind into the experience so that it's not wandering. It's not thinking about its shopping list. It's not trying to strive to get it perfect. It's witnessing and observing a quality of the breath. And the breath will change the nervous system. I work with the polyvagal nervous system. All of us right now living in the world of Mother Earth are living in the dorsal nervous system. This is when the ventral system is wired for flight or fright. COVID speeded up that even more. This is why long haulers, this is why the experience now, your flame is too high. It pushes up the flame. It creates anxiety. Anxiety is a running mind. In yoga, we call it, the fluctuations of your thoughts are too fast. When you are running too fast 24/7 and you can't turn it down, you can't think your way out of it, you can't strategize, you can't wait for you are in panic. Now your body's collapsing. Now we call it autoimmune diseases. There's too much inflammation. The arteries are closing, the veins tighten, your heart can't beat, your respiratory shortens. And what happens to your entire system? It starts to go into collapse. I'm exhausted. So we call it depression. We call it anxiety. I left mental health. I am a yoga teacher, and I left mental health in the 1990s because as a yoga teacher, I saw us somatically cutting off the integrity of using this beautiful instrument to experience your life force. So yoga brings me in to calm the nervous system so I can start to appreciate the experience of my aliveness. Not, am I good enough? Did I do it right? Is my identity okay? Are my habits all shameful? No, I just want you to experience what it feels like to be present to the heart beating. Now, as a yoga therapist, I will work with a psychologist. I am a psychologist, but I left mental health to touch, to be able to work one-on-one and to be able to experience people with touch. Remember, as a teacher, the person has to feel safe with me. Safety is everything. I develop a one-on-one. You have to feel safe. You have to feel nurtured because you're starved inside. Now, our society is not nurturing right now. Our world in the medical field, in the mental health, we're prohibited from nurturing. We give you ideas, we change direction, but we don't really hold the space for you're falling apart. So my work is soul work. I want your identity to fall apart. I want your persona to feel every shame. And I want you to feel this self-love that you're making an effort to know what it feels like to be alive, just good enough where you are, more than good enough, to appreciate, to value, to have the passion for being alive. And our society, we don't have passion, we have rage. We took the fire, we turned it up. I don't want you to lose your fire. I want you to balance it. Because ultimately, yoga is the teachings, how to turn that beautiful pilot light, that integrity, and illuminate your light.
Beautiful.
That's very beautiful.
Laura Jane, wow, that was incredible hearing that. And I'm just pulling a few things from what I've heard from all of that. A few things that really kind of hit home was one, patience with your clients and teaching them that. And also I'm a yoga teacher too. And so I see firsthand this we're in a society now where we want instant gratification, right? We have so much stimulation. We have phones at our hands. Can get everything through a touch of a finger, right? Or we have pills or medication to numb the pain, right? We want instant gratification. How do you teach patience? Is that a struggle that you find with your clients?
That's all of yoga. It is a struggle for humanity because patience, when you're in flight or fright, are you going to be patient when the lion is right behind your shoulder and you've been told that lion's going to eat you? And if you don't eat that lion, you're going to die. That's a learned thought. We might not know it consciously, but your nervous system is wired for that thought. Yeah. So don't think patience is something we've cultivated as a society. No, we want it instantly because we feed pleasure. Remember, the root of all suffering in the teachings of yoga is to only follow what I like, pleasure. Mm-hmm. It will lead to suffering. And if I resist what I don't like by saying, no, I want it now, I don't want to do that, or a procrastination or avoidance, or like the phone is a great way to distract, that leads to pain because that keeps us stuck. As a practitioner of yoga, I'm inviting you to be aware of that mind. And every day you make effort in a new direction, that is feeding self-love. Mm-hmm. So in yoga, we have 3 principles that we teach from the sutras. The Yoga Sutras are thousands of years old. These teachings are not my made-up identity. So the teachings of yoga say we have to practice every day. We have to practice effort. That means every day when you get out of bed, some people, that's the hardest thing they can do. Their effort might be making their bed. And I have to say, bravo. Because you did that not for glory, not for being seen on Facebook, but you got that because you made an effort and a commitment to do something that you don't normally do and you don't like to do it. But you did it for some greater commitment. So now teaching effort is the ability to then reflect. You mean if I move in a direction, even if I don't like doing the dishes, if I do it with right attitude, meaning I'm doing it to cultivate a conscious awareness that I don't like it, and yet I'm doing it for something greater, that is the piece of spirituality. Because if I do something for the value of life, not because I'm going to look good, not because I'm going to get a lot of money. Remember, attachment to materialism is a feeding is impatience. I want more now. That can be any materialism. To sit in what I've cultivated with the yoga teachings, you have to enjoy your life. You have to enjoy your life. Now, most of us don't. We're waiting for the outcome. Mm-hmm. So how do you enjoy your life? You have to know that your life is a blessing. Now, how do you feel your life is a blessing? If you don't feel your life, if your head's saying, you're not good enough, you're lousy, you have to reframe it. So we're changing patterns that have been ingrained in our nervous system. They've been ingrained in our cellular walls. They've been ingrained in our muscular walls. They're in our blood. So we're not overnight going to change our personality. I'm not changing personalities. I'm just giving different reframing perspectives. So as I do this while you're practicing and while you start to reframe your thoughts, they start to blossom into new seeds. You start to witness, oh my God, my self-talk is horrible. I just called myself stupid 4 times right now. Mm-hmm. Where did I learn that? Now you step back and you go, oh, I learned that. That's not me. I learned it. There's a space of consciousness that you were aware of the thought. You didn't just mindlessly keep saying it. You were paused enough in the nervous system through the practice of breathing to be aware, that little glimmer, not to fix it, not to judge it, just to go, oh, I call myself that. Mm-hmm. And then to step back and have a little pause of grief and actually sit in the sadness that, oh my gosh, I treat myself pretty okay. Well, I deserve pleasure now. I'll have more ice cream. Well, that's how we feed no, sit in it. Sit in that little bit of sadness. And that's what a yoga was. I'm here to hold the space so you feel safe enough to let go of that armor, let go of that persona that goes, I don't have to call myself that. Yeah. Cultivate, I'm enough. And guess what? You don't think that, you feel that. Because the intellect's going to go, oh, you're not enough. You lost that job. That's never going to change. It gets quieter. But what really starts to happen is you feel it. Mm-hmm. You start to feel, you know what? I'm enough right now. In this moment, I'm breathing.
And Laura Jane, I loved how you put it too, with the sense of the word aliveness. I think often when people maybe think of yoga, they're like, oh, well, what is meditation? You know, is it just sitting there? Or what does it actually mean to be mindful? These all sound so distant, right? And I love how you just scale it back and just put it in, what does it feel like to just feel alive
and feel your
it's
feelings?
as basic to the core as that is just that you are alive and that you know that you are alive and you're here now. I love how you keep tying that back together. That seems to be kind of a core theme in what you gift and remind a lot often your clients. Am I hearing that right? Yeah.
And it was just what you're saying. I value every human being. We might not like our behavior. We might not like our choices sometimes. But if we can be seen with dignity, and if we can be seen and heard with dignity, I know that every soul matters. I don't doubt that. So therefore, unfortunately, we've become creatures of habit to fix ourselves, to be an identity that will win and punish those that lose. And we have an imbalance in our world. For me, the person that is struggling is the hero, because they're asking to grow. And every human being growing, yes, it's difficult, but the tools of meditation is not a quick fix. People put an app on and they go, I'm gonna meditate. It's a quick fix to learn to just calm the nervous system for 30 seconds. They're not really trusting their own experience. It's linked to their app, to the somebody else's voice. Right. My work is, I want you to hear your own voice. You can hear my voice for a while, but I want you to hear your own voice. I want you to listen to the integrity of your soul, your sweet little voice that is saying, I am enough. I am more than enough. Now, in order to do that, you have to be willing to practice. And you talked about patience. Most of us are not willing to practice because we have this idea that we don't have time. I say we can't afford not to. Our world has to slow down. We individually have to calm our own nervous systems to begin to appreciate responding to the world with a new vision of integrity, which is kindness. That means even if I don't like you, I don't spit at you nor bite you. That doesn't mean I engage with you. I might have to walk away. I might have to say time out, but I'm not here to harm you. So in yoga, we're moving away from harming into healing. And I, as a yoga therapist, I take all the tools of healing and notice when we start to go into harming. That means if I'm an anxious human being and I like to run and I have, a worn out system and yet I only go to hot yoga, unfortunately, that's harming. As a yoga therapist, I want to cool your mind. I want to cool the mind. I want to keep the hearts warm. So we have to change the paradigm from a cold-hearted heart and hot-headed to a cool mind and a warm heart.
Oh, I love how you put
the analogy.
Yeah. Yes, that's beautiful. And I want to pull something you said earlier too, is there's this big part of all of that experience with your therapeutic touch. The touch of being a yoga therapist is, I think, what brings it all together, right? It's the same of feeling alive.
You have the greatest touch, the greatest sense we have is touch. Why do you think people suffered during COVID? Also, the greatest thing is listening and vibrating in the awareness of another human being.
Yeah.
Because we have to be in humanity. We have to belong to this greater sense. So what you were saying though about yoga therapy and touch, if I asked you to feel your right toe, you wouldn't know what that feels like. But if I touch your right toe and I say, here, many of us need a brick to fall on us. Some of us need a whole house to fall on us to feel, okay? And we call that pain. Most people don't come to me unless they're in pain. And I always use the analogy, the acronym of pain is pay attention inside now.
I love that.
I love that too. These analogies of yours.
So wake up. So I say, celebrate it. Now your pain is your gift to be able to come inward. Now we want to run away from that because we're in tension. So if I can give you any way to alleviate the suffering of that, that's what I do. So I would approach it to be able to touch you, to be able to say, drop the shoulders. Now, maybe we don't know our shoulders are up here. If I drop you, touch is very difficult though. But if you've been in trauma and your whole system is wired for protection. I can't go in there and just touch you. That would be invasive and wrong. And that's harming. So I have to listen intuitively. I have to meet you where you are. So for some people, I have to sit way across the room and I have to listen to their breathing, and I breathe with you. So sometimes just breathing with another person is touching them.
Wow.
Sometimes a longer exhale. And sometimes I put bean bags on your belly. So the bean bag itself touches your abdomen and you feel the weight of the bean bag and you feel safe. The bag protects you. Now you realize how gravity, all day long, you're trying somatically to get that breath, to breathe. Look at babies, how difficult it is for lungs to open. We work with gravity. It's exhausting to breathe unless you know how. And so we don't know diaphragmatic breathing. Then I take the bean bag off you and I say, now experience the lightness. What does it feel like to be at ease? You don't have to push so hard. You don't even have to push at all. You've already activated it. The diaphragm's there. So we start to cultivate mindfulness in the experience of being in your body. People cannot meditate. They're concentrating and thinking and visualizing, but they're not present. So meditation is not the goal. It's a tool. Remember, there's three limbs in yoga, the teachings of yoga. They call it the tools or the limbs. And there's focusing of it. There's being aware of the experience. And then there's the absorption of the experience. Absorbing the experience is to actually pulsate in the feeling of your own aliveness. You will feel the breath moving in and out of your skin. And you're bigger than your skin. I mean, you're greater than your skin. That's your energy field. Yeah. I work energy, I work sound, there's so many tools. We have meditation, we have visualization, but we have sound. We have what we call bhavana, which is cultivating the right attitude. Because again, pessimism is not just your thoughts, it's learned thoughts. It's negative in the frontal lobe of your brain. You're wired for negativity. Believe me, if you were to have everybody here love this podcast and one person wrote you a negative comment, you would focus more on the negative comment.
Right? 100%.
At some point, that's our system that says, oh my God, they didn't like me. We take it personally. Yoga's teaching us not witness. Everyone sees through their own lens. Everybody, one day you have a good hair day. Maybe you don't. Somebody says, oh, that hair is beautiful. And everyone says, it's how they see. Remember, we all are seeing through our own lens. This is why we've all learned. That's why we can't judge. It's hard. This is hard work because number one thing from my own experience, if I would tell you about why I got into this, I'm the most judgmental person on the planet.
Yeah. Well, then can you explain to us a little bit how you started getting into this and how you had this realization of being so judgmental and kind of how you worked through that?
I hated myself. You have to know that I grew up to be perfect. My father was narcissistic, very controlling. If I had a pimple on my face, he would shame me. If I laughed at the dining room table, he would ridicule me. I grew up with anxiety, massive anxiety. So I was terrified to speak. I had a speech impediment because I couldn't hear properly. I'm sort of dyslexic auditory. So I have all of these challenges that I went into the world hating, and so I had to hide. And how I hid is I built persona. I built bravado. I was better than you, and yet I was jealous of you. I had to win, and so I was competitive, highly competitive, and yet I was always afraid I wouldn't. I said, if anybody really knew who I would, they would know what an awful person I am. So I never loved myself, and I got to a place when I just collapsed, almost to the point where I think if I didn't get into yoga, I would have not been today alive because I was self-harming, greatly self-harming. I was not eating, I was working, I was just self-harming, you name it. Yeah. And I was on the kitchen, like praying one day, and I said, please help me. And I'd always dabbled in yoga. I'd always been interested in it, coming back in my life. And that's another podcast because it's fascinating how mysterious it comes into your life. But I heard yoga retreat. I actually heard the voice at yoga retreat. And this is in the 80s. You have to know there was no yoga retreat. It was like either that or you were in a cult or an ashram somewhere. It wasn't the popularity contest it is today.
Yeah.
Yoga mats. We didn't have yoga clothes. I didn't know what it was. But I found a yoga retreat in Santa Barbara, California. I was living in LA. And I went on this retreat. And the experience was profound. I fell down a chute of grief. And I did not want to ever be a yoga teacher. I was way grander than that. That was a crazy job. That was for, what am I going to do? A yoga teacher? It didn't exist in my mind. And yet it chose me. And I started to teach, and I went back for teacher training. And I said, I'm not going to teach. I'll just learn more. And I went back and ultimately ended up teaching in Los Angeles. And I had moments of clarity, moments where I started to recognize I had learned to protect myself. And I had built armor, and I had built these habits that I didn't like. And I started to grieve my own sense that I didn't know myself at all. And I was hiding, and I was trying to get my persona to win so that I could be okay. And I realized I would spend my whole life running, looking for myself, when I had actually crashed into myself. Wow. And yet I had to learn these tools more. So I studied more. And then I went back and I thought, this has been helping you so much. Go back and get a master's in clinical psychology, because maybe as a therapist, you can use these tools to help people. So I got a master's in clinical psychology at the end of the 80s into the early 90s. I became a marriage family therapist in California, right at the time that the pharmaceuticals were coming out. Prozac was on Time magazine, the wonder drug. And the mental health profession was losing their economics. I saw that we were losing touch with somatic. I couldn't touch as a therapist. The boundaries of my protocol is I had to keep separation, and we were referring clients to pharmacists, to psychiatrists, that the mental health profession was moving into pharma. And I was losing people because they were whining and telling me their same stories over and over again. And I would say, well, let's stop and let's just breathe. Let's practice a little yoga. And they would look at me, what? And I would get them to breathe. And I would notice, and they would notice that they had a new thought. It would change and de-link from the spinning mind. They would take a hiccup pause, and they would say, oh my God, I feel better. What just happened? I'm not as angry. What happened to my mood? I could shift your mood. Now, I didn't tell you to shift your mood. The actual nervous system was being engaged. And I realized the science hadn't caught up yet, nor did the science want to catch up. Mm-hmm. Nor did the science want to catch up. And then with the Iraq war and Afghanistan war, I was working and noticing all of the veterans coming back lost. And we were selling Vicodin and all of these pain, Oxycontin, and this is our epidemic today. So what painkillers did is cut us off from pay attention inside now. And it didn't give us an opportunity in mental health. And look at the world today, and we need mental health. No, we need soul health. We need soul health. So yoga is not just saying physical health and mental health are separate. It's saying they're both together. And at the same time, when you balance the system, you open your heart. And at some place, yoga is teaching us, pay attention to your essence. You are a soul. You are a magnificent soul. You are a radiant soul. And I am here to witness and hold the space until you experience that.
Beautiful.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's incredible. I have goosebumps here.
Yeah.
And I don't make the income that doctors and mental health do, because I'm willing to let go of the outcome. Remember, passion takes you over. Passion to serve, passion to heal. If I remained as a mental health provider, I would start homing. Remember, my whole life work is to keep healing. I'm not done yet. I don't even know who I am when I grow up. But
you're a lifelong student.
Lifelong student, and you're keeping that childlike open-mindedness that you can just be malleable. Like you
don't know. I'm humble to say today I know what I know, but tomorrow I might know more. And I'm accepting that this world is magnificent because I don't know. My judgment that I held on to was that I thought I knew, and I was right. Remember, if I can step into someone else's shoes, I have to look at equanimity. I have to see the world that we don't know. We just don't have the tools to see clearly.
Sure. That's beautiful. Yeah. I just want to touch upon Katie's experience, because when you mentioned a spiritual practice and getting in touch with your soul and healing the soul, I think Katie had something similar happen to her, where she became more spiritual through yoga, in the sense that she kind of got in touch with herself more. So I don't know if you wanted to share with the audience.
Yeah, mine was a much longer journey because I didn't have a yoga therapist with me. I just went into your traditional yoga classes. And yes, I did start with hot yoga to begin with. And what I started enjoying about it, it was just the feeling of my body. I grew up as a dancer, so I was always more mindful of my body, but not so how it felt internally. It was more so how I looked because I was in competitive dance. And so yoga was an opportunity for me to just have this rectangular space, my yoga mat. This was just about me, my time, my experience. And so it became so much more than just physical. It became a lens for me to look within myself. How did I feel? Where did I store my pain? Where did I store my stress? And how can I begin to let go of that? And it was just years of practice of doing that, of learning patience with myself, learning these virtues that I really give yoga a lot of credit to: patience, compassion with myself, slowing down. These were all tools that I had to learn. And I think these are virtues that we often take so for granted in current society. And it was, again, just this time on my mat that I started to relearn and understand kind of what I was conditioned to be like, but now have this experience and not label it, not judge it, but just have the experience. And like you said, Laura Jane, just feel this sense of awakening, feel this sense of aliveness within me. And I love how you put it. It's soul therapy. It's not just physical. It's not just mental. It's this integrative part of this awakening of yourself. And so that's why I want to share with the audience that while it took me years, and like you said, Laura Jane, we're lifelong learners. I'm constantly still learning about myself. You can also do that, not through also years of practice, but having a yoga therapist as yourself to help to guide that, open up that door for you. And I think that's just incredible, so eye-awakening. And I love the part of the therapeutic touch. I think that is something that our souls are truly craving. 100%. And that's a little bit of my experience. I know, Hanan, you did a little bit of yoga as well.
Yeah. So I started Yoga with Adrian on YouTube. Laura Jane, when you were talking about hating yourself and having armor and being competitive, I related to that. Now, I wasn't to the extent where I was self-harming, but my mindset towards myself, my life, how I should live, listening to the noise around me did affect my self-image. And I didn't know who I was. And I'm still discovering who I am. I'm in the process right now of peeling back the onion layers and rebuilding myself. And it's very vulnerable and scary and uncertain.
Oh, I love what you said. That's the key. It's vulnerability.
It's vulnerability. And it's
I really
scary.
feel at this point in our world, humanity, the men, we become vulnerable. We become able to open up that space and be real. And it takes courage. Every day, the only prayer I'd make is, please help me have courage.
Yes, exactly.
It's not bravado. It's not arrogance. I'm not better than. I come from humility of humanity, that we're all in this together. And I might have tools to offer you that might help and assist you so the journey can be sustained. Remember, we want it instantly. So many of us give up. We go, oh, this yoga doesn't work, or I tried that and it doesn't work. And we go, I'll try Pilates tomorrow, but this is deeper. This is a soul journey, and it's asking you to be courageous and vulnerable at the same time. And the mind doesn't understand that. The intellect goes, no, I got to be the bully. I got to protect. I got to go for it. I got to win, because it's learned, and that's okay. It's our nature. We have to accept that about ourselves.
And I think a part of that is our ego, right? Our ego
and it's
gets
needed,
in the
and
way.
it's needed. It's just linked to the wrong identity, meaning that it has to get the outcome. Remember, this is about living, and living, saying, okay, whether tomorrow I have yoga myung friends or not, I'm going to be okay. It's not dependent on my identity to be the yoga teacher or even the yoga therapist. It's, am I living consciously with the dignity of integrity? Am I rooted in the right actions? Am I fit for the right action? And this means I've taken myself to a place of self-reflection, and I'm not reacting out of old habits, or I'm not striving to fix myself because I don't like myself. Remember, all self-help comes from self-hatred, because it implies you're not good enough. Yoga is implying you are magnificent. You just have to be revealed.
Yeah.
This is the difference. I'm not selling a book. I'm not selling you to get a quick fix. And this is why we don't understand yoga. We don't get it. We get it from the world of identity. We get it from, I touch my toes. But we're not really experiencing the sweetness of the aliveness until you actually experience it. And that's what I love most about when I see a client and I work with a client who comes in and they're so tight and they're so dense and they're so much in pain. And I can see the shield dropping and I can see a glimmer of them experiencing what they've never experienced before, which is energy or something moving.
Right.
And they take a moment and they get the tear will come down because they've touched something that they don't know how to name. They don't know how to label it. They don't know how to, but it's something shifting. And I say, beautiful, you're purifying. Something like that. Now it might come right back because we're creatures of habit, but the more we practice, the more we can drop that armor a little bit more, drop that tension from that physical body. Then we drop from the mental mind, those self-harming words. Then we go dead in our lifestyle and we go, you know what? I'd rather have that apple than that second piece of cheesecake. All of a sudden, it's not that you go, bad girl, I ate that cheesecake. It's that you're choosing. The discernment is, wait a minute, I want that. I even though I don't normally like that, the intelligence is working. And those habits slowly drop away. We're not controlling, we're not putting people in a certain system to go, you got to lose 5 pounds before you're good enough. It's your lifestyle. And then I promise you, your moods start to change. Your mood starts to elevate out of depression. The anxiety comes down and we find a state of balance. And we go, how did I get here? How did I get here?
And it's, I think this key word of balance that keeps popping up, right? This just balance of
it's all about balance. That's why asana is practicing opposites. We practice the opposites of balance. We practice the awareness of the Shushuna being our center balance, but our energy balances of the Ida and the Pingala on the opposite sides of the male, female, the sun, the moon. Yoga is all about opposites. Yoga is the awareness that your sun is your Purusha, it's your light, and the moon is the mind. And the mind revolves around the sun. The moon has no light of its own. The moon has no light of its own. The mind cannot see clear until it comes home. And the light of the sun reflects on the moon and the mind starts to become clear.
Laura Jane, you are just mind-blowing us over here. I wish we had more time because I think we can go on and on just learning so much from your wisdom and your insights. So we are so grateful for you. I think we definitely need another podcast episode just to have you on it, but maybe just a podcast just around you entirely and your wisdom. So we would love to have you on in the future again, if you're open to it.
You guys are doing great work. You're doing wonderful work, and it's your intentions and your hearts are in the right place because you want to share and keep the education going. Remember, we have to keep inspiring people that this is not something that's going to harm. It's going to heal, to go in.
We are here to open the conversation. Yes. So if clients wanted to work with you, or if our audience wanted to work with you, you would suggest them to go to yogaamongfriends.com and they can see the classes that are offered there, as well as email you directly to schedule those sessions, correct?
Correct. And I want to look a little plug for Katie here. She teaches at Yoga Among Friends, and I suggest that anybody come in and enjoy her beautiful gifts.
Oh, thank you, Laura Jane. Well, it was such a pleasure to have you on here. We're so grateful for you. It's going to be a beautiful day now, just having this conversation. I feel so uplifted. So hopefully our audience did as well. Hope you all have a great day. Thank you so much, Laura Jane.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Lovely meeting you both.